Hey guys, I just got my wisdom teeth taken out, so sorry if I sound weird. Just a quick disclaimer, something weird happened with my camera while I was recording, so for a good while it's going to be my voice with just some visuals attached to it, and then right before the 22-minute mark my face will just appear. So apologies in advance for like the weird transitions, but hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Me, 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 me. It's time for best and worst movies of 2022. So, how's everybody been? 2022 was one of those years that just kind of happened. It was just there, and then it just sped by. In terms of how 2022 was personally, I mean, I got a college degree. But other than that, I felt like 2022 was just one of those years where nothing really mattered. As for the films of 2022, the highs were really high, but I felt like the lows were just pretty low.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
Just do it! Just fucking do it!
And then there was just a mountain of mid, which we'll be talking about in this video. But before we start, I want to let you guys know that I do run a podcast called Huggercast with my friend Colton. It's a conversational style podcast. We talk about lots of things, movies, TV, cartoons, or sometimes we'll just kind of just talk about whatever. But you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So please check it out. Oh yeah, guys, just before we start, like always, you've got your warning. And without further ado, let's talk about these movies.
It's just like one of my Japanese animes.
You know, I almost forgot that I watched this movie. Belle was an interesting story because it was kind of like Beauty and the Beast meets Hatsune Miku. It's about this girl who joins a game where she becomes like a really famous singer. Then she meets this guy who stays in a castle who's a giant beast. It's kind of a mixed bag. There are parts that are really good, like the animation is beautiful. It's a good mix of 2D and 3D. The ending was actually really surprising because it deals with child abuse and it's like an anti-child abuse message. Very odd mix of components, but it was a fine movie. I'd check it out again.
Good job! Good job!
Okay, I feel like I'm gonna piss a lot of women off with this take, but I didn't think Marry Me was a good movie. I honestly thought the movie was incredibly painful to sit through. The whole movie just felt like Jennifer Lopez phoning it in and Owen Wilson just saying, "Wow, Jennifer Lopez, I can't believe we're dating, wow. Wow." There's also this annoying score that like swells up anytime there's a romantic moment. It just felt incredibly generic, uninspired, and it just wasn't entertaining to watch. It wasn't funny, it didn't feel authentic. I just did not have a good time watching this movie.
What? No.
I don't understand how a movie that has been in production for so long still feels like a first draft. I've never even played the Uncharted games and even I was disappointed by this movie. It just felt incredibly generic. Some of the action set pieces were pretty cool, like where Tom Holland was falling out of a plane with a car. But from my limited understanding of the games, the actors didn't really get into character as the characters. It just felt like Tom Holland being Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg being Mark Wahlberg. There really isn't much to say about this movie. It was just incredibly forgettable and I really don't even remember much about it.
What the dog doing?
Now this one was an interesting one because going in, I thought it was going to be one of those movies where there's a big meanie owner who's just a stick in the mud, but he finds a nice dog and then they have a connection, but they have a rough start to begin with, but then they end up finding that they actually really like each other and depend on each other. I thought it was gonna be one of those movies where Channing Tatum's walking or something and he's like, "Oh no, I stepped into dog poopy. That's a bad start to any weekend." But it was surprisingly very heartfelt. The movie is about Channing Tatum, who is a retired military veteran, and he goes on a road trip to take this dog to the original owner's funeral, who was a friend of his who unfortunately committed suicide. And the movie takes the subject very seriously and handles it with the care that it deserves. I was incredibly blown away about how serious this movie actually is. It goes over a lot of rough subjects like PTSD, suicide, just what the military does to people in general. And I actually ended up really liking it. Channing Tatum's acting has come a long way since the beginning and he's become a pretty good actor. And yeah, I just ended up really liking this movie. It was very heartfelt and had a very good message.
What is long, hard, and has come in the middle?
Let's go, baby. This is peak cinema right here. The Batman is just fantastic. I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard about how good it is, but it really is that good. It's not just hype. The cinematography was fantastic. There's just so many great shots in this movie, like this. I want a poster of this and I want it on my wall right now. And though the theme is used a lot in this movie, I think the score is amazing. I think the theme for Batman is fantastic. I really love the use of the Nirvana song. It completely fits the tone of the movie. And I know a lot of you people doubted Robert Pattinson. Y'all thought he was, oh, he's a Twilight. He's a vampire. He's gonna sparkle. Bats don't sparkle. Well, guess what? Y'all were proven wrong because Robert Pattinson is just great. He's just a great Batman and Bruce Wayne. I know some people were complaining that Bruce Wayne was a little too emo in this movie. Like, it didn't seem like there was a separation between Bruce Wayne and the Batman. But you have to understand that it is the beginning years of Batman. It seems like Bruce Wayne hasn't learned how to separate the Batman persona from his actual real-life Bruce Wayne persona. I feel like if they make more movies in this universe, they're gonna delve into that a little more. I think Zoe Kravitz was really good. There isn't a whole lot of action in this movie, but the action that is in there is very well choreographed, very well shot, just like everything else in the movie. The use of the reds and the blacks, the color scheme is just top notch in this movie. And yeah, I feel like the year peaked really early because this came out really early in the year and was already one of the best films of the year.
Morbius, I got that acrimonious odious.
Okay guys, I was just kidding about the Batman. It was good, but it totally wasn't the best superhero movie of the year. Oh yeah, we all know what the best superhero movie is. It's Morbius, baby. It's Morbin time. Morbius, we're gonna get a Morb sweep. It's gonna make more $1 billion. Jared Leto's Morbin all over my face. He can Morb all over me. He can Morb inside me. I'm gonna Morb right now. Okay, in all seriousness, if anyone is a subscriber that pays attention to this channel, you will know that I've actually made a video about this movie a few months ago. So go watch that to see a little bit more of my thoughts. But in short, it is definitely not Morbin time. I feel like the memes had a more lasting effect than the actual movie because I still see its Morbin time memes to this day in the year of our Lord 2023. Just a horrible movie. The effects were bad. Jared Leto is just an emo vampire boy. In fact, he gives off more Edward vibes than Robert Pattinson does in the Batman, which is actually interesting. What really upsets me about this movie isn't really the movie's fault, but just how studios are afraid to make a villain movie, because that's what Morbius is. He's a villain. We saw the same thing with Venom, how Sony had to make Venom a anti-hero and had to tone down the violence levels to make it PG-13 and still make Venom a good guy. A lot of times in these movies, they'll have a villain, but they'll have someone who's worse, so the villain has to save the world because they're fighting someone who's actually more harmful. I just wish studios would make an honest-to-God villain movie. Like, we can be down with that. We've seen that villain movies can work. But yeah, this movie is just really forgettable, and there's just nothing really good to note about this movie at all.
Meme! Approved!
So I talked about the first Sonic movie in my best of 2020 list. So now I get to talk about Sonic 2 in my best of 2022 list. I feel like this movie was a big improvement over the first one. I liked the first one just fine, but it just felt like there was a little more human interaction than I thought there should have been. Like, it's a Sonic movie. I want the main focus to be Sonic and characters from Sonic. This one improved on that by adding more Sonic characters. Idris Elba is fantastic as Knuckles. He just does such a great job.
Do I look like I need your power?
He plays it so seriously, and sometimes how seriously he plays it is just really funny. But he's also not afraid to get just a little bit silly, just that right amount of silliness that a character like Knuckles needs to have.
Oh, yum. Dessert. Does it have grapes in it?
Colleen O'Shaughnessy was great as Tails, and I'm really glad that they picked one of the voices from the games. A lot of times voice actors get shafted for big celebrities. Looking at you, Mario movie. But I'm still kind of excited about you, so I can't be too mad. But they actually got the voice of Tails for the games, and she's really good. Jim Carrey is back as Eggman, and he's just as silly and fun, and just has as much physical comedy as ever. And Jim Carrey is just great. Having Supersonic at the end was really cool. It's really good to see that in live action. And I'm very excited for Sonic 3 because it teases Shadow the Hedgehog. There was a part where it focused on a wedding by one of the side characters, and there's like a whole like 10 to 15 minute segment that just involves this woman who's getting married, and I feel like it lasts way too long. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, like, get back to the Sonic characters, you know what I mean? But all in all, it's a pretty enjoyable movie, and I liked it a lot.
I wanna be with you everywhere.
Okay, you know those people that say, oh, there's no creativity in the film? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once shuts those people up. It is one of the most creative movies I've ever seen, not even just this year, but just in general. Michelle Yeoh is fantastic. She just adds a silliness, but also a seriousness to this character. We have the magical return of Ke Huy Quan. I hope I'm saying that correctly, because he is just amazing in the movie. He plays different versions of himself. Some of them are more serious, some of them are more silly. He's just such a fantastic actor, and I really hope to see him in more projects after this. This movie it's got everything. It's a sci-fi movie. It's a perfect mix of sci-fi, action, comedy. movie. It has some great commentary on generational trauma and how that stuff gets passed on from parent to child. Shout out to Stephanie Sue because she is also really great as the villain / daughter in this movie.
Don't worry, Evelyn. It's organic.
And I think I may have a new celebrity crush, so, you know, there's that.
Yes! Yes! Come to Papa!
This movie also doesn't take itself too seriously. It indulges in the silly, which I like. This movie's sense of humor perfectly matches mine because it's just so off the wall and bonkers at sometimes, and you just can't help but laugh. And I won't spoil the joke, but there's a scene involving a rat that just had me dying, just absolutely dying in the theater. I'm smiling now just thinking about it. It's just such a funny scene. I saw this movie twice and I want to see it again, honestly. It's just so good. I can't tell whether this beats Batman for me as the best movie of the year, but it's just, please go see it if you haven't already. It's just so amazing.
I thought you were bad. You ain't bad. You ain't nothing.
The bad guys kind of crept up on me because I honestly didn't really know a whole lot about it going in, but I ended up really liking it. The animation is just so stylized. It's almost like that cell shading, but also like kind of like influence of anime just a little bit. All the faces and the characters are very expressive. There's some cool anime lines during the action scenes. All the voice acting is really good too. A lot of the jokes land. It is a very funny movie. There is a bit of a reliance on fart jokes with this one piranha character, and I was just like, come on guys, you're doing so well. You don't need to rely on this toilet humor. Like, I feel like the movie is just better than that. The movie set a standard and I just expect more than that. So when I saw the fart jokes, I was just a little disappointed. The story is a bit predictable and generic, but I feel like you just really care about these characters and want to see where these characters are going with this story, that it doesn't really matter that the story is just a bit generic. And you know, stay tuned for the rest of the video because this isn't the first DreamWorks movie with stylized animation that kind of snuck up on us and was really good.
There are consequences to saying the N-word.
Why? How do you know? How do you know?
The Northman, I saw this movie at the movie theater I work at in our largest format and our most comfy seats. That only just heightened the experience because The Northman is awesome. If you watch my best and worst of 2019 video, you will have seen that I was a big fan of Robert Eggers' other film, The Lighthouse. This movie's a lot different. It's a bigger budget, kind of more of an action film, but it still has that great cinematography. The visuals are sick, especially in the end when it shows a little bit more imagery that's inspired by the Norse mythology. The fight choreography was really, really cool. It almost felt like I was watching cutscenes from a video game, but in a good way. The story was a little bit surprising because the trailers made it seem like it was going to be more of this guy taking over this giant kingdom, bringing everybody down. But the main character, he takes over kind of like a smaller kingdom, and it's a more smaller scale, more personal story, which I kind of like. It definitely threw me for a loop. The acting was also good by everybody involved, and it has my wife, Anya Taylor-Joy, in it. Like, what more can I ask for? The Northman is just a really awesome action movie, and there's really not much else to say about it.
And now we'll play When the Red Robin Comes bobbing along.
Oh my god, guys, we gotta stop this movie. It's indoctrinating our children into whatever conservatives are angry about this week. I don't know, guys. Turning Red was a very enjoyable film. I like that a lot more animated films are taking chances with their animation styles. It's another movie that has an almost anime kind of influence. The animation is a little over the top, but it works. I feel like this movie perfectly represents the early 2000s because I wasn't as old as the characters in the movie during the early 2000s, but I do remember a lot of these things that are referenced. And a lot of people were complaining that the movie was cringe and that the characters were cringe, but do you remember what you were like in middle school? This goober right here, this goober in middle school, this dude, he would Naruto run. I remember me and my buddies made our own like rip-off Yu-Gi-Oh card game where we made our own characters. We put memes as card game characters. I know these cards are around here somewhere, and if I ever find them, I'll show them on camera. But we put stupid internet memes from like mid-2000s and early 2010s on the cards, and we would fight with them. We would fight with these cards during lunchtime. Being a middle schooler is cringe. It's purposely done. And of course, the song by Four Town, I believe that's the name of the band in the movie, was really catchy and pretty good, actually, kind of a banger. And we get another story that deals with generational trauma. And I like that a lot of films are exploring that aspect of life. It's just a really good Disney film. I just wish the rest of Disney's output this year was this good.
H-I-J-K-L-M-N-O-P Q-R-S.
This is just an insane idea for a movie, and I'm just so happy that it was made. Nicolas Cage is fantastic in the movie. It's just a very self-aware comedy comedy that I feel like only someone like Nicolas Cage could pull off. Like, imagine the self-aware comedy of the movie This Is the End, but amped up to 11, and only about one actor. Pedro Pascal was also really good. He was just as funny as Nicolas Cage in this movie, but it's just a really funny, just self-aware, off-the-wall movie. I know a lot of people are getting sick of meta humor.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah. It's code for adults who still watch cartoon.
Wake up. I said wake the fuck up. Sleepy time's over, little motherfucker.
But I feel like this movie does it really well. It has some pretty decent action as well, too. It's just a pretty enjoyable self-aware comedy, and I feel like if you didn't watch it, I feel like you really should check it out.
Sam, I won't be spoken to in that manner.
You talking back to me?
Okay, I'm declaring it here. Justice for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I saw so much hate for this movie, and I just don't understand why. Like, yeah, it's not a perfect movie and it's got some problems which I'll get into, but some people were calling this movie like bad and horrible, and I just don't understand. I feel like Sam Raimi really brings like a unique flavor to this movie. The cinematography is just fantastic. The color palette is just beautiful. There's lots of really bright colors that you don't really see in typical Marvel movies. They kind of just let Sam Raimi make a movie. The acting was pretty good. I just don't see what everyone found so horrible about this movie. I thought the scenes with the Illuminati were really cool, and I hope to see where they go with the idea, because that's that universe's Illuminati, but maybe there's a 616 Illuminati, you never know. The problems with the movie though, I wish they would have explored more universes. I mean, it is the Multiverse of Madness. You would expect there to be a little more delving into different universes and such. Also, America Chavez wasn't given that much of a character. Like, I don't know what this character is supposed to be like. I'm hoping they'll delve more into the character with later movies, but yeah, for now, it's just, this character is just kind of bland. And I've seen this argument in so many Twitter threads and just talking to people in general. Wanda is the villain of this movie. You guys do know this, right? She's not the misunderstood hero. She's a villain. She murders hundreds of people in the quest to steal a pair of children from another version of herself and leave that version without children. She's a villain. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the movie got way too much hate, and I thought it was a pretty enjoyable film. Not perfect, but it was fun. Can we just have fun? Is that okay? Are we allowed to have fun with a movie?
This is a tasty burger.
I feel like Bob's Burgers was done so dirty. Like, from what I understand, it did not do super well at the box office, and I don't know why. I feel like there's a lot of Bob's Burgers fans still, even though the show has been going on for so many years. The animation was nice. It's very similar to the show's animation, but just on a bigger budget. To be fair, I haven't really seen that much of the show. I watched like the first 5 or 6 episodes just to get acquainted with the characters, just so I could watch this movie. And I feel like that's really all you need, because if you understand the characters, you'll understand the humor. If you like the humor of the show, you'll like this movie. The songs kind of slap too. Like, the songs are pretty good in this movie. It makes me kind of sad that no one saw this film. Like, I really want people to support 2D animated films, because they just don't come out as often as they should. And when they do, I feel like they just don't make as much money as they should. It was an enjoyable film, not a perfect film, you know, but I liked it. It was fine. My God, I just... Like, what do you even say about this movie? It was just a complete and utter disappointment. The story was not only boring, but it made no sense. Like, what made the writers be like, all right, guys, you know what? This dinosaur film, you know what this dinosaur franchise needs? It needs to become a spy thriller. I already didn't like the last movie, but this one takes it to a whole new level. The only decent parts were Jeff Goldblum and seeing some of the cast reunite again, but the film was just boring. And at the end, where the old cast meets the new cast, I feel like there's just too many characters. I mean, the effects were decent, but the story doesn't even focus on dinosaurs really. It's on these locusts that are eating crops. Yeah, that's what I want to see in my dinosaur movie. Bugs! I want to see a focus on bugs. You know what? These studios just really get what the general audience wants. This movie was also 2.5 hours. It was just so long, and it just did not feel like it needed to be that long. I feel like this movie is just everything that's wrong about the current state of Hollywood, and everything that's wrong about sequels, everything that's wrong about nostalgia-based movies, like just everything that's wrong with a film in general. Do not watch this movie. Just don't.
You got them in my ass.
You know, it's an interesting year where for a Disney Pixar movie, a Toy Story spinoff, I have the least amount of things to say about it. Lightyear, if anything, was just disappointing. It was boring. I feel like they had somewhat of an interesting idea where the story is about Buzz trying to correct his failure and what it can say about people who are perfectionists or don't know how to accept failure. But I mean, they just didn't tell the story in an interesting way. Buzz was kind of bland as a character, and it's not the same Buzz Lightyear from the Toy Story movies with all this character development and just the familiarity that we know as an audience. The side characters weren't that interesting. They were just kind of boring people who tell one-liners. The only thing this movie really has going for it is the animation, which I will admit is beautiful. It seems like Disney and Pixar just keep outdoing themselves with animation because these movies just keep looking more and more beautiful. It's a shame all that animation was wasted on just a boring movie. Like in the Toy Story universe, this is the movie that Andy saw that made him want to buy a Buzz Lightyear toy. I don't see it. Oh yeah, this is another Disney movie with LGBT representation that lasts for like 5 seconds and can easily just be cut out when they release it in the foreign markets. So really, what's the point? I'm done talking about this movie. Just the more I think about it, the more just upset I get.
I grab the moon. I shit on the toilet. What?
You know, I don't know if I'd rather watch Minions or Lightyear because they were both just movies that really left no impact on me. I mean, it was fine. It was probably just a little better than I thought it was gonna be. But I mean, it's Minions. It's a baby movie. The thing is, even with kids films, we've shown that so much can be done with the medium. Why do we allow these mediocre studio focus tested pieces of garbage to be as successful as they are? I mean, this movie made almost $1 billion at the box office and I don't remember much about it. It seems like there are parts in this movie that are just the equivalent of someone jangling keys in front of a toddler. Like there's a part where the minions are trying to drive a plane. It just lasts for way too long and there's no real jokes because these minions, they don't speak. It was interesting to see a child Gru, but I mean, he gets kidnapped, so he's not in it for a good chunk of the movie. This movie takes place in the 70s, I believe, so there's a lot of 70s music, but it seems like every 10 seconds they're playing some pop song because they can't just let the audience soak in the movie that they're watching. They have to have some sort of noise. I mean, you gotta play a pop song or else the kids will get bored. They don't know what they're watching, right? I feel like I didn't go into this video wanting to talk so much trash about this movie because it really is just kind of mediocre, but I mean, I guess after Lightyear, I guess I got a little upset at these two animated movies in particular. I mean, I can't recommend it, but it's not the worst thing to show your kids. One of the main themes, though, Turn Up the Sunshine by Diana Ross and Tame Impala, that song actually is pretty darn good. But again, that really has nothing to do with the movie as much as, you know, Tame Impala and Diana Ross.
Strongest Avenger.
Access denied.
Strongest Avenger.
Okay, so this is a movie that the more I think about, the more I hate it. I mean, what happened? Seriously, what happened? Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite MCU movies. It is one of the best superhero movies that I've ever seen. It's funny, it's got great visuals. The action scenes are awesome. It took a character that I really didn't have that much interest in and made him kind of funny, kind of silly, kind of interesting. But it seems like this movie just forgot to put all that good stuff in there. I don't know if it's Taika Waititi's fault. I don't know if he was just running out of steam. I don't know if it's Marvel's fault. I just don't know. I mean, it's definitely the writer's fault because this movie is not well written at all. The jokes in this movie are just so unfunny. You know all those TikToks where they make fun of Marvel movies and Marvel humor and they're just like, he's right behind me, isn't he? That sounded better in my head. Like, I feel like they're making fun of this movie when they make those videos. And it sucks that Marvel humor kind of has that reputation because not all Marvel humor is bad. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is a really funny movie. Like I said, Ragnarok has really, really good jokes. The Spider-Man movies have some decent humor. But this movie, it just isn't funny. But you know what is funny? Dank epic memes like screaming goats. You know that meme from over a decade ago? Yeah, dude. Oh, dude, those are just hilarious, right? Right? Like someone, yeah. No, the kids like those, right? I mean, right? Christian Bale's also wasting this movie. Like, he gives a good performance, but I feel like they just didn't do a lot with the villain. He's called Gore the God Butcher, but we don't see him butcher any gods in this movie. Hello! I feel like this movie is just everything that's wrong with the Marvel formula. There is one or two interesting visuals, like the fight on that planet where everything's black and white. I thought that looked kind of cool. But other than that, like, it's just a very boring movie to look at. It's not funny. And apparently it's killing Chris Hemsworth's love for the character. So that's always a good sign, right? Don't watch this movie.
Oh, how selfish of you.
As you can see, I'm a big A24 fan. You know, I've already talked about Everything Everywhere All at Once. And now I'm going to talk about Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. This movie is just one of the most heartwarming movies I've ever seen. Marcel is just such a charismatic, funny character. If I could sum this movie up in a word, it would be genuine. Like the feelings of this movie are all genuine, they're all real. The animation was really good on Marcel and the rest of the shells. And it's only like an hour and a half. It's not super long, it doesn't overstay its welcome. But I recommend everyone see this movie. It's just one of the most feel-good movies that I've ever seen. I absolutely love this movie. I'm not saying a lot about it because I don't want to spoil anything in the movie, because I just want you to go watch it. Just trust me, it's a great movie. You'll feel amazing watching it. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll do everything in between. Just watch it and buy the DVD. Support the DVD release. We need more movies like this being made.
Hello, 911 emergency. There's a handsome guy in my house. Oh, wait a second, cancel that. It's only me.
So I honestly didn't know who Austin Butler was before this movie. Apparently he was on like a few Nick and Disney shows before this and had some small roles and other stuff. But man, he is really, really good in this movie. He's not putting on an Elvis impression. He literally becomes Elvis in this movie. Like there's a part in the end where they're playing footage of him and footage of the real Elvis back to back. And if you're not paying attention, you could get mixed up on which one is the real footage and which one is the actor. He's that good. There's some very erratic editing, but from what I understand, Baz Luhrmann's films are very fast paced, very erratic, very high energy. It takes a minute to get used to, but once you do, it's fine. Like it's good. Some of the visuals were interesting. Some of the transitions were pretty interesting. I heard a few people saying Tom Hanks was really bad in this movie, but I just didn't see that. I thought his performance was actually pretty good. If you're not a huge Elvis fan like I am, like I don't know a whole lot about Elvis, this movie does delve deep into things you might not know about him. This movie gives a good look into a person who was a flawed individual, sure, but at the end of the day just wanted to do what he loved for a living, and unfortunately got eaten up by the entertainment industry's machine of just cranking out as many things as you can to maintain relevance. It's a story about the dangers of trusting the wrong people. It is a bit long, but I mean, honestly, I didn't feel like I was bored throughout the movie. It is a film that I really, really liked, and I recommend seeing it. No. Wait. So unlike Thor, Nope is a movie that the more I thought about, the more I like. Well, I watched this movie being like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, you know, that's pretty good. Jordan Peele, yeah. Jordan Peele is that Jordan Peele. Oh man, he's a real weasel. That one. He's always pulling the wool over someone's eyes. But no, the more I learn about it, the more I read about it, the more I watch videos about it, the more I see how genius the movie actually is. First off, it's a really creative alien story, because most stories involving aliens, you know, they involve the ship, little people coming down, or there's an invasion. There's a ship and there's people, right? This movie kind of throws you for a loop because they find out that the ship is actually a thing, a creature. Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya are awesome in this movie. They're really, really great actors. They have some really good chemistry. I'm glad to see Keke Palmer in more things. The movie, of course, has a lot of commentary on the entertainment industry, on social media, and I feel like it's all done very well. The only part that I find a little bit ham-fisted is the reporter on the motorcycle, that even though his legs are broken because of an accident, he's still worried about, where's my camera? Oh, I'm gonna put this on social media. Oh, like I get what they were going for. It is a little bit on the nose though, but other than that, the visuals are fantastic. The cinematography is great. The commentary is very well done, and overall it's just a really, really good movie. Also, that remix of Sunglasses at Night is really, really good. Like the fact that when that song is slowed down, it does sound like this foreign alien style machinery. Like I would have never picked up on that, but somehow Jordan Peele keeps finding these songs to use in his movies and remixing them up to fit what the movie needs. Man's a genius. Man is a straight up genius.
It's about being hungry. It's about being hungry. We stay hungry. We be hungry. Put in the work. Put in the hungry.
So this movie was actually way better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be another lame animated kids film, but no, it was actually pretty well done. The animation isn't great. Like it's not, you know, Disney level, or it's not super creative with it. It is very standard animation, but it does have a few cool experimental moments. But what really won me over was the humor in this movie. This movie is just really funny. Like there's a lot of commentary and jokes about superhero movies and just DC in general. It's nice to see that DC is willing to make fun of itself and isn't above that. The voice acting is fine. It's pretty, it's serviceable. It's not, you know, amazing, but it's good. Although Keith David is Crypto's dad, perfect casting. That's just amazing.
Never eat chocolate. That dog in the mirror is you. Fireworks suck. Tell Gail I said hey.
The movie's really funny and also emotional at times, but what really won me over is the humor of this movie. It throws a lot of jokes at you and most of them land. I recommend giving this movie a chance. Like if you didn't think it was going to be any good, I'd recommend just seeing if you like it, because it is really, really funny.
Patrick, that's a gun.
Yes.
I'm gonna be honest, Bullet Train is some of the most fun I've had in a movie in a very, very long time. I mean, this movie, it's got everything. It's got amazing action. It's really funny. The camera work is very creative. There's a scene where the camera follows a water bottle for a few minutes, and it's all just shot so well. It's good to see a different side of Brad Pitt because he's usually playing like the really just kind of generic nice guy character. He does channel some of that here. He is a nice dude, but he's also kind of more of a funny dude, more of a sarcastic dude, more of a laid back dude. Everyone in this movie is great. Aaron Taylor Johnson's fantastic. Brian Tyree Henry, I'm just starting to love this man in everything that I see him in. It's honestly just a blast. Like, you know when Martin Scorsese compared Marvel movies to like roller coasters? I feel like this movie is a roller coaster, and I mean that in the best way possible because it is just non-stop fun action, high energy. I don't understand what's wrong with critics. Like, I don't know if every critic during that time was just, I don't know, on their phone or something during the movie, or they were on some sort of drug that made them have bad opinions. But I mean, look at this Rotten Tomatoes score. I mean, really look at it. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. This movie is legitimately one of the most fun movies I've ever seen, and I loved it. Okay, well, since we're talking about not getting things, I just really didn't get this one. Like, I don't know if I'm missing something, but I just didn't understand why a lot of the critics loved it so much. I just found this movie to be incredibly boring. You're just watching people walk in the dark for 2 hours. I thought all the characters were really annoying, and I thought the Gen Z commentary was really surface level and not funny or interesting or creative.
You're always gaslighting me. You fucking trigger me. You are so toxic. Relax, relax. You're silencing me. Did you just fucking shoot me? I can't believe you're making this about you.
You shut the fuck up.
That's another thing about this movie. I was promised a comedy horror, and the movie is not funny and not scary. Also, the twist at the end, which I won't reveal, but it really wasn't that interesting of a twist. Like, I feel like the movie thinks the twist is a lot more clever than it actually is. It was interesting to see Pete Davidson's patent pending technique of throwing himself all over the marketing while only being in like 10 minutes of the actual movie. Honestly, if Pete Davidson just keeps doing that in every movie that he's in, I might be down for that. Just throw himself over all the marketing of every movie that he's in and literally be in it for less than 10 minutes. I'm down. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't enjoy this movie. Maybe I should watch it again. Maybe I'm missing something, but overall, I just wasn't into this one. Sorry.
Hold your fire! This man isn't black!
Okay, I'm just gonna nerd out a bit on this one because I love Dragon Ball Z. I started a little late. I was around like 10 or 11 when I really got into it, and even then it was mostly because of the games, not so much the show. I got a chance to fully watch the show when they started releasing Dragon Ball Z Kai, and they started showing that episodically, which, by the way, that's a good way to watch the series if you haven't already, because Dragon Ball Z Kai, it cuts out a lot of the filler of the original Dragon Ball. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Dragon Ball Z is just awesome, and this movie is just awesome. It's really good for Gohan and Piccolo to actually get a lot more screen time, because normally it's Goku, mainly Goku, bit of Vegeta, and that's pretty much it. But it was nice to see that Gohan actually gets a story where he has to show a little bit of development. And I'm looking forward to what they'll do with Gohan in future Dragon Ball Z projects. The 3D animation took a little bit to get used to, but I mean, once you got used to it, it was fine. It looked good in a lot of the action scenes. I mean, I'm gonna gush a little bit because I mean, this movie, I mean, there was the part where Gohan was just like booming, and then Piccolo, he was like, good job, and then you see Gohan again, he's just like, and then there's the fight scenes at the end, and then everyone's just like, you get all the characters like, and then Gohan's like, Gohan and Piccolo, they're locking forms, and they're like, there's a, and then they're like, so yeah, if you're a fan of Dragon Ball Z, I'd say check this movie out. Pretty enjoyable.
Actually, I'm a snow leopard. Rawr.
Okay, so with this movie, I'll start with what I like about it, which isn't that much. I felt like the camera work was really good. It created a lot of suspense. There was a lot of these long tracking shots, which I feel like in a better film would only up the intensity and the suspense of the movie. But in this movie, it just feels like, I don't know, sprinkles on top of a jar of Marmite. Idris Elba feels like he's kind of sleepwalking throughout this performance. Like, there's literally a part where his daughter is missing, and he's yelling out for her and just goes, daughter. He doesn't actually say daughter. I just don't remember the name of the character. Daughter, where's your sister? Where's she at? The characters in this movie make a bunch of stupid decisions. There's a part where Idris Elba says, hey, we're being chased by a lion. Stay where you're at. And what do the kids do? The girl's like, no, I'm gonna go out and try to find dad. That's a smart thing to do when you're being chased by a lion. Don't stay in the car where you have water and some protection. No, go out where the lion can eat you. Yes, very great story writing. Great. There's also a dream sequence in this movie that's meant to be funny, but I won't lie. This movie might just be worth it just to see Idris Elba punch a lion in the face. And isn't that what cinema's all about? So this one's an interesting movie, but it's also very different. So I thought it was going to be kind of like this adventurous, like fantasy movie where the main character finds a genie and then she goes on adventures. But it's more of like a romance movie, but also like 101 Tales, like sort of thing. I mean, I honestly don't have a whole lot to say about it. Idris Elba is pretty good in the movie. There's some interesting visuals and effects, but I mean, it seems like just the guy that made Mad Max wanted to make a love story, and yeah, I mean, I liked it. I wasn't great, but I did enjoy it. It's not very memorable, but I could see myself going back to it in the future.
I'm not gay no more. I am delivered.
So this movie is a mockumentary about a pastor that gets in a controversy, and it's pretty much about his trying to rise back to the top. And yeah, I found this movie to be pretty funny and entertaining. It's a really good commentary on the institution of religion. It's a funny criticism about these like mega church pastors with all this money, but they spend it all on all this really just like unnecessary stuff. Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown are amazing. They give really good performances in this movie. They have a really good chemistry with each other.
No, it's a must, boy. No, if you
The only criticism I have is that it is a bit slow on parts. Like you're kind of just waiting for the jokes to happen. But other than that, it was a fairly enjoyable movie. Not great, but still pretty good.
Let us commence forth. British!
Well, with Glass Onion and this movie in Amsterdam coming out, 2022 definitely seemed to be the year of the whodunit mystery. And I can't say I'm mad about it. This movie was a pretty good addition to that. It's very, very British. It has a very British sense of humor, very dry sense of humor, but I found it to be very funny. And I gotta say, I didn't see the twist coming. So, I mean, you know, take that for what it's worth. Not a whole lot to say about it. The acting's fine. The cinematography wasn't super creative, but it doesn't really need to be for a movie like this. But I did enjoy it. It was a nice, funny whodunit film that had a decent twist.
When you drink this Among Us potion at 3 a.m., you turn into the imposter from Among Us.
The trailers made this movie look way more exciting than it actually was. And I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep kind of like halfway through, so I don't really know why I put this movie in this video. Why did I put in this video?
My favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie.
This felt like a very underwhelming movie. Like I was somewhat excited about it because I thought it was a really interesting idea and had some promise to it. But that's where it ends. I feel like they had an interesting idea for this movie, but did not know where to go with it. And parts of it felt like they were just doing, oh, let's just show disturbing imagery as a substitute for actual story because we don't really know what to put here. It's just a very sloppily told movie. Also, Harry Styles is just bad. He's just bad in this movie.
I don't know what to tell you.
I saw her. She cut herself.
You had a bad night. Not everyone gets this opportunity.
I heard he does a better job in that movie, My Policeman, but in here, man, he is just bad.
Our life.
That's garbage.
I thought the ending was also very disappointing. She's trapped in the simulation or whatever, and then she finds the exit, goes to the exit, and the movie just ends. Doesn't really show what happens after. Also, the main villain in this movie is based on Jordan Peterson, allegedly, which I don't really see. I'm not a Jordan Peterson fan. I've talked about him before on this YouTube channel, but I'm not like a huge Jordan Peterson stan. But I just don't see the correlation between what this character does and what Jordan Peterson talks about. It feels like the comparison was brought up by the filmmakers just to get people talking about the movie, because the movie itself doesn't really have that much to say about anything. Oh yeah, it's another thing. The commentary in this movie isn't very good or very poignant. This movie was just disappointing and just not very good, not very well made. So I wouldn't recommend this one.
Interior crocodile alligator.
Oddly enough, I enjoyed Lyle Lyle Crocodile a lot more than Don't Worry Darling. I honestly enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. I thought it was going to be horrible, but it was actually not too bad. Not gonna lie, some of those songs are actually pretty good. I do think it's really dumb that Lyle, outside of the songs, doesn't speak. It doesn't really make sense from a story standpoint. The only reason they give is just that he's nervous or something. But my theory is just that the studios didn't trust Shawn Mendes to actually act. So they made a story reason for why Lyle doesn't actually communicate besides the one thing Shawn Mendes is actually really good at. Also, the story felt really rushed. Like, there's a whole part in the story where the mom in this movie is like a health freak and she has everything with schedules. She's just a big like OCD freak. But then in one song, just magically, she becomes fun. She orders pizza. She gets rid of all her schedules. And all it took was one song. But I mean, it is a movie that I feel like is made for a lot younger audiences. But yeah, I mean, it was a fine movie. It wasn't offensive. It wasn't great, but it was okay.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
I might be jumping the gun a bit because this video isn't done, but Halloween Ends is one of the worst movies of 2022. And it's definitely one of the worst movies I've seen just in general. Now, this Halloween movie, I think it's missing something. I don't know what it might be, but let me think about it. Oh yeah, Michael Myers. For like 75% of the movie, Michael Myers just isn't in it. And it's not even to build up suspense or anything. He's just missing from the movie. But no, instead we follow this goober right here and we follow his transformation into being the new Michael Myers or the new killer. This character is not intimidating in the slightest. And it's not even like a funny, he's so unintimidating to where it becomes intimidating, or it's so funny that like it's just not well thought out. It's not good. He's not intimidating. He's not interesting. And we also follow this out of nowhere romance between this character and Laurie Strode's granddaughter. The movie just becomes a rom-com for like 20 minutes of the runtime for no reason really. And then the final battle between Laurie and Michael Myers isn't as good as the first battle from the original reboot in this franchise. Much like Jurassic World Dominion, this movie is everything that's wrong with sequels and everything that's wrong with pretty much just Hollywood in general. Nothing really makes sense and things kind of just happen for no reason in this movie. I would warn you not to watch this movie because it's just not good. It's just really bad actually.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Oh my god, the DC hierarchy of power is about to change. Black Adam is gonna shut up. Just stop it. Just stop it, okay? I saw so many people defending this movie about how, oh, it's actually pretty good, or oh, it's just a fun popcorn movie. No, it's not. It's bad. It's not a good movie. I feel like aside of a few action scenes, this movie is just really, really dull. There's one action scene where Black Adam is just floating through the desert while things are trying to shoot at him, and it's in slow motion, and it just looks horrible. And the song that they use doesn't fit the scene because nothing is happening. I see a red door and I want it into glass. The main villain of this movie, I can't even remember the name or what he looks like. He's that forgettable. The Justice Society was kind of decent in this movie. Mainly Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. That was really good. Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher was kind of like a wannabe Deadpool. Not just design-wise, but he was like the funny character, and I did not find him funny in the slightest. Also, I was promised a darker, gritty Black Adam origin story and just movie in general, and instead the movie focuses on this mom and son duo that add nothing to the movie and are extremely annoying and do nothing. Seriously, like in the marketing, in the trailers, this mom and son do not show up at all. Unless I'm misremembering something, I didn't see them at all. But they're just here and now they're main characters. Like, okay, I guess this movie just didn't have enough characters or something. The movie also tries too hard to insert jokes that just aren't funny.
Tell them the Men in Black sent you.
Well, yes, but not to me. Say it to the bad guys. But before you zap them.
Catchphrase, then kill.
Yes.
It's awful.
And for all the talk about The Rock being like, oh, you know, I love this character, there's so much passion put behind it, I didn't feel that. The movie just felt like a Dwayne The Rock Johnson vanity project where he gets to be a super awesome character that wants to fight Superman, which they tease at the end, but you know, we all know what's going on with Warner Brothers and DC right now, and so that's not gonna happen. And I believe Black Adam 2 is also canceled, so, you know, this movie has no point now. It just feels like it's a superhero movie from a decade or two ago, and even then it just isn't that good to begin with. Till was a very hard movie to get through. It was very uncomfortable, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that as a compliment. The movie really takes its time to show the weight of the situation that's happened. It doesn't shy away from the gruesome stuff. The movie doesn't show the actual lynching of Emmett Till, but it does show something after that I feel like is just as powerful. The acting in this movie is fantastic. I highly recommend watching it because it is a very powerful movie. And a movie that didn't feel like the cinematography needed to be a super flashy or special, it was. I just very much enjoyed this movie, but I will admit to some people it might be a little hard to get through, but it was really, really good. Armageddon, we're not begging. There's not a whole lot to say about Armageddon Time. It was a decent period piece about race relations. Anthony Hopkins was great. I mean, Anthony Hopkins is just a great actor, but he was really, really good in this movie. It wasn't as good of a period piece as Till was, but I still found it to be somewhat enjoyable. The ending of this movie is very bleak and unsure, which I liked because it's a reflection of race relations at the time and even now. If you have some extra time, I'd say give it a chance. It's a pretty decent period piece.
Black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black.
This movie is just wonderful. I loved this movie. I absolutely loved it. Like, forget the haters, man. Forget what all the haters and video essayists have to say. I feel like this movie is just a great representation of grief and healing from that grief. Letitia Wright steals the show as having to be the main character now that Chadwick Boseman sadly and unfortunately passed away, but she does a really good job filling in that main character role. Angela Bassett is acting her ass off and she's just amazing. She doesn't treat it as a comic book movie where she doesn't have to give her A-game. She gives her A-game here. Namor is just a fantastic villain. He's very threatening, but you also understand where he's coming from, same like with Killmonger in the last Black Panther movie. I will say that Martin Freeman did have a bit too much screen time. Some of his stuff could have been taken out. And then Ironheart didn't feel like she needed to be there, kind of just felt like they shoved her in to promote the show that's coming out later. And I won't lie, her suit did look a bit odd, but these are all nitpicks. I really love this movie. I feel like the action was also better than the first Black Panther because I don't remember there being a lot of really good action in that movie. But in this one, the fight between the Atlanteans versus the Wakandans was a really awesome fight. The ending fight between Shuri and Namor was brutal. And it was nice seeing Shuri get that character development of being someone who's out for revenge, but then deciding to take the path of peace. It is a really good film, guys. I know a lot of people were saying Phase 4 was just bad. There was nothing really good about it, but check out this movie with a fresh pair of eyes. Forget all that Phase 4 video essay crap that you've been seeing all over YouTube. Just watch the movie. And you might be surprised about how much you actually like it.
Christmas.
There's not a whole lot to say about this movie. It was an interesting retelling of the Christmas Carol story with an interesting twist. The songs were really good. Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, of course, play Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because they're good at it. I'll never understand all the Ryan Reynolds say because
he just plays the same thing in every...
Yeah, but yeah, some people are really good at what they do when it comes to playing themselves. Other than that, it was just a pretty decent Christmas movie. I'd honestly throw it on around Christmas time to really get in the spirit. I wasn't feeling very Christmassy last year, but when I did watch it, I felt Christmassy. So yeah, check it out if you get the chance.
I'm gonna deck your halls, bub.
Speaking of Christmas, this movie is just awesome. We've seen a lot of movies where there's like a dark twist to Christmas or there's like a mean twist to Christmas, but I feel like this is one of the better of those movies because it's just a really good action movie. The action is brutal. It's really well shot. It's choreographed well. The kills are pretty creative. And despite all of that, it's still a very Christmassy movie. Like, you feel very Christmassy while watching it. It does have a bit of a heartwarming ending as well. David Harbour makes just the best Santa who's passionate about his job, but is kind of just tired of everything, you know? It could have been real easy for them to make this movie incredibly mean-spirited and nasty, but they still added the heart of Christmas in this movie, which is what I really liked. I'm definitely going to throw this on around Christmas time because it's just a fun, Christmassy movie.
Fighter pilot!
This is another one where I don't have a ton to say about the movie, but I feel like I didn't like it as much as I wanted to. The main thing that carries this movie is Jonathan Majors' performance, which is a really good performance. And I can't wait to see him in everything that he's going to be in this year, like Ant-Man and Creed. Like, I'm glad he's blowing up because he's a really good actor. But the movie was just really slow and some parts were just a little uninteresting to me. I don't know, maybe I'm just not the right target for this movie. The plane scenes were pretty cool and there is a lot of emotional moments that did make me feel emotional, but the movie was just kind of slow and a little boring at parts. I don't know, like, give it a chance if you're into war movies, but I just thought the film was okay.
Steven Spielberg! Forsyth!
Mr. Bean!
You know, I was kind of worried about The Fabelmans because I thought it would be a little bit self-indulgent about the art of filmmaking, and there's some truth to that, but I just really liked it. In the beginning especially, this family seems like a family that you want to be a part of. Also, the acting by just everyone is fantastic. Special shout out to Paul Dano as the father. He's really good as kind of a stern father, but also kind of a goofball too. I thought the movie was incredibly well shot, and I thought it portrays filmmaking as almost magical. Spielberg has this really good talent of making everything he touches feel like there's a hint of magic to it, and this movie is no different. It is a bit long. It is very long, I will not lie. It is very long. I don't know why every filmmaker feels like they need to make their movie over 2.5 hours, but Yeah, it's just the world we live in, I guess. It felt like a nice callback to classic coming of age stories, and I really, really enjoyed it. If you get a chance, check it out. It's very, very enjoyable.
Gonna have the steak. How would you like your steak? On a plate?
Okay, so talk about movies that come out of nowhere and completely surprise you. The Menu is a fantastic movie. I really don't want to share much about this movie at all because the more blind you go in, I feel like the more you'll enjoy it. But to start, this movie has some really good performances. Ralph Fiennes is just scary. He's just scary. He's a very frightening chef, and I don't want to go anywhere near this character. My wife, Anya Taylor-Joy, does a very good, very subdued performance. Nicholas Hoult is really good as just this big, huge fanboy of this chef. But there are so many dark twists and turns that I did not see coming in this movie. Also, this movie is just a great commentary on criticism in general. I know it specifically targets food criticism, which, let's be honest, out of all the critics, I feel like food critics are some of the most hated types of critics. I don't know if you've watched anything like Chopped or MasterChef or just any show where they bring on a lot of these food critics and this food looks amazing, but yet somehow they find just a way to crap all over it.
It's like the things you were telling me, I'm listening to you, but I'm not tasting them in the dish.
Because this defensive no, just listen to me a second.
He's an asshole.
Like, I know a lot of people don't like film critics because they feel like they're up their own asses a lot, but I don't know, I feel like it's on a different level with food critics. But this movie just has a lot to say about criticism and just the food industry as a whole. And yeah, please watch this movie because I feel like not a lot of people saw it, so please check it out. It's really, really good, very suspenseful, it's just a great movie.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
I feel about this movie the way I felt about Lightyear. Really great animation, kind of a creative looking world, but it was just kind of bland and dull and boring. According to everyone I talked to and a lot of the chatter I see online, nobody knew this movie came out, which I don't know if Disney did this on purpose because the movie wasn't that good, but they really didn't market this movie at all. I saw like a few trailers and that was it. No McDonald's toys, unless I'm mistaken. But the movie itself, the voice acting is fine. The characters are fine, although like a lot of them are just kind of bland. I feel like the environmental message though was told pretty well. I like the analogy of the world being just this creature's body and our use of electricity and fossil fuels being like a virus. Like, I feel like that's just a really creative idea, but I just wish it was in a better film. I don't see myself going back to it at all. It was just an okay, fine movie.
It's me, Mario.
This one wasn't a theatrical release, but I thought I'd throw it in there anyway because I threw the Lego Star Wars holiday special in my best of 2020 video. But yeah, the special is actually pretty good. It has all of the humor and all the flavor of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but just on a short holiday special and on a smaller budget. The story was really funny, with Drax and Mantis trying to have Quill have a good Christmas because they don't really have Christmas out there in space. The movie is a little dark. It does have a lot of that dark humor that James Gunn is known for, but it works really well. And at the end, it's still a very Christmassy movie. It still has that heart of Christmas. It still has that joy that Christmas brings. Check it out if you get the chance, if it's still on Disney Plus around the time that Christmas comes around this year.
The popcorn, the previews, the pretzels.
I know a lot of people were disappointed by this movie, but I work at a movie theater, so I feel like this movie is my Joker. All jokes aside, I did enjoy this movie a lot more than I saw a lot of the critics enjoying it. I was a big fan of Sam Mendes' last film, 1917, and I feel like I really like this movie almost just as much. Of course, the cinematography is great, just like Sam Mendes' last film, 1917, and that's special thanks to Robert Deakins, who is a master cinematographer. I really need to go back and watch some of Robert Deakins' other work. I don't know, I just thought I really cared about these characters. I feel like Olivia Colman was awesome in the movie. She gives such an emotional performance. I feel like Michael Ward plays a very good young straight man opposite to this woman who has a lot of mental problems. I know it takes place in the 90s, but I feel like it perfectly encapsulates what it's like to work in a movie theater because, like I said, I've worked at a movie theater for the past like 7 years. So there's a scene where someone tries to bring in outside food, and yeah, it's very accurate to the things I've dealt with working at a movie theater. This movie shows that Sam Mendes really does have a love for film. He doesn't just love making films, he loves film as an art form. I don't know, I really like this movie, and this is another one where I don't agree with the critics. I thought it was very heartwarming. I thought it was very emotional, and I thought these characters were really interesting. If you have some extra time, please give this movie a chance.
Give me the phone, give me the phone. When you get a whale of a watch, and the price give him about the phone. And the price is very, very low.
A24 is back, baby! And that's not the only one who's back, because Brendan Fraser is back in a starring role in the movie The Whale. This movie is another movie that's kind of rough to watch because it's so emotional, but it is very well made. The Whale is about a severely overweight person who's an English professor and tries to reconnect with his estranged daughter. The movie does a really good job of making you feel what he's feeling as a person who's stuck in this one apartment. The movie doesn't really take place in the outside world that much. For the most part, you're stuck in this apartment with Brendan Fraser's character, and I feel like that only solidifies the helplessness and the solitude that this character goes through on a daily basis. Everyone in this movie is just giving an amazing performance, but special shout out to Brendan Fraser, who's giving it his A game. He is emotional, he's a bit silly at times, but he's just killing it.
I need to know that I have done one thing right with my life.
I know for a fact he's going to be nominated for an Oscar, and depending on the competition, I hope he wins, because he deserves it. I won't spoil too much about this movie because I really want people to go out and watch it, but it is fantastic. It's great. The only nitpick that I have is that some of the dialogue seems to be written in sort of like a bit of a hokey way. I understand this is adapted from a stage play, but some of the dialogue is a little bit like exposition-y. Like there's parts where the daughter's like, yeah, you're my father, you know, you left me. Like, remember that? And it's like, well, yeah, we're the audience, we already know that. But other than some slight nitpicks, the movie is just great. Please watch it.
This nigga done took the Timbs, man. This nigga just dead ass took a nigga's Timbs.
Okay, I want you to stop what you're doing right now or finish the video, but I want you to go out and watch Puss in Boots if it's still in a theater near you. Please, please, I want people to go support this movie. Thank you very much. Go watch this movie. Puss in Boots is a movie that just came out of nowhere for me and just surprised me in every which way it possibly could. Puss in Boots did not have to go as hard as it did, but it did anyway. The animation is fantastic. It's very reminiscent of Spider-Verse, what with the changing frame rates, but the animation is just very stylized. It's beautiful. It's very different from the typical Shrek style. The Shrek style goes for semi-realism, but this one is just a fully cartoony, animated, almost comic book level style animated movie. The movie is emotional. It deals with so many topics. It deals with the topic of death. It deals with what it's like to go through panic attacks. There's a scene where Puss in Boots has a panic attack. The voice acting is fantastic. Antonio Banderas is absolutely knocking it out of the park in this role. The main Puss in Boots theme song is really catchy. At first I didn't really care for John Mulaney's villain character, but you know, I watched it a second time and the more I think about it, yeah, he is a really funny and different villain. He's a villain who's just evil just because he's evil. There's no emotional reason behind it. He's just evil. And they make a lot of really good jokes about that. Puss in Boots is why I love cinema and going to the movies to watch a movie. Please, please watch it. Please support it. Please give it your money. It deserves it. And I really hope there's a Shrek 5. The conversations around this movie are incredibly irritating and annoying to listen to. On one side, you have the James Cameron fanboys, who are almost as annoying as the Zack Snyder fanboys at this point. And on the other side, you have people who just swear that this movie will leave no cultural impact and that no one will remember it. And that almost want it to fail for what reasons unknown, I don't know. But all in all, I really enjoyed this movie. It was easy to make fun of Sam Worthington in the early 2000s because of his dry performances, but I feel like he's grown as an actor. He gives a very warm performance in this movie. There's like a soft warmness to his acting. It's hard to explain unless you watch the movie. The effects somehow managed to look even better than the original movie, which was already very impressive. The water looks fantastic. The Na'vi look fantastic. These new creatures look fantastic. Zoe Saldana is killing it, as she always is, because she's a great actress. The story is a little bit generic, kind of just the same bad guy coming back to get revenge on Jake Sully, but even then, I don't know. There's something about these characters in this world that just has me really hooked. I can't explain it. I won't like fight for people to go see it because it's already made a lot of its money back. It's already made over $1 billion as of recording this. But I mean, yeah, I would check it out because it is a very enjoyable movie. It is one of those movies that is a really good movie-going experience. It may not be the best told story or the best movie, but it is a really good movie theater experience. Especially if you watch it in 3D, looks fantastic.
Just watching.
Right. So The Banshees of Inisherin, it's a fucking good movie. I recommend it. Colin Farrell does a very fucking good job as the main character of this movie. It's essentially a story about two friends where one of them doesn't want to be the friend anymore, and we just go into the mind of the Colin Farrell character and how he's dealing with the situation. That may seem like a boring movie, but it isn't. It's a famous, fearless hero. It's especially more poignant when you find out that this movie is more of a symbol for the Irish Civil War that that was happening around the early 1900s. But yeah, the movie is just a fucking good movie. I won't reveal too much about it just because I want you to go and watch it. The less you know about it, the better this movie is. Okay, I'm gonna stop this horrible Irish accent. Although if there's any Irish people in the audience, let me know how my accent was and if I did a good job. But yeah, please go watch this movie. I doubt it's in any theaters anymore, but it is on HBO Max, so check it out. It's really, really good.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own?
Okay, and we actually have to end this video with one of the worst movies I've seen. You know, for reference, I watched the original Pinocchio before this movie because I'd never really watched the original Pinocchio in its full length before. And it's a pretty good movie, the original Pinocchio. It's not perfect, but you can see why it has the audience that it does and why it left the impact that it does and why people remember it. Beautiful animation with a likable main character that's a real kid. But this movie, it took everything from the original and just sucked all the personality out of it. You know, you want to talk about a bad Tom Hanks performance? Tom Hanks is not good in this movie. He's basically sleepwalking like Idris Elba did. He doesn't even attempt to really put on an Italian accent. All of the changes that were made in this movie were for the worse, and they just don't really make any sense. Like, for example, they actually add a layer that Pinocchio does make it to school and gets kicked out for being a puppet, and they randomly add some of this like puppet versus human like racism allegory in it for no real reason that doesn't really add anything. The movie's longer, they just add all these random elements. And of course, they don't have any beer or cigars in the place that Pinocchio goes where he turns into a donkey. Jeremy Jahns also brought this up in his review, but they also take out a scene where one of the kids that gets turned into a donkey can still talk. And it's just a frightening scene seeing him talk, but he's stuck as a donkey. Like, it's scary. But they just take out that scene for no reason, really. They also changed the ending because in the ending of the original, Pinocchio sacrifices himself to save Geppetto, and they think he's dead, but he gets brought back by the Blue Fairy. But they changed it up where Pinocchio turns into a speedboat to save Geppetto, but it's Geppetto that looks like he's dead, but ends up being alive, and it's just a lot less emotional and a lot less impact. If I name every difference between the original and the new one, we're gonna be here all day, but all in all, the movie is just lifeless, soulless, and just really bad. I feel like I make a whole video about this because I hate this just as much as I hate the Lion King remake. But there's no reason for you to really check it out because it's not good. Oh man, that was a long video. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in to my best and worst of 2022. I plan on making a lot more videos because I have a lot of ideas rattling in my head. But I wanted to get this one off the ground first, especially because I missed doing a best and worst of 2021. I might just do it just because I did watch a lot of movies in 2021 as well. But we'll see about that. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz the YouTubers always say. And make sure to check out HuggerCast on any listening platform that is available. And I'll check you guys out in the next video. Thanks for watching.